Mildred, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing good. And this book, she has a book out. It's called Scared Silent When the One You Love Becomes the One You Fear. So let's talk first about how you met John Allen Muhammad, because you met him, you started dating him, and you found out thereafter, hey, wait a second, this guy's married.
Right. And then I broke it off, but then he tells me that he couldn't read, which he couldn't. And he asked me if I could teach him how to read because he didn't want to stay in Baton Rouge. He wanted to move his life forward in the military. So I took phonics classes and taught him how to read. He took the test to enter the military and passed, and then that's when he left and was stationed at Fort Lewis.
So he could not read. Was he all right? He couldn't read prior to joining the military. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
He graduated from high school. He did all of that, but for some reason, he couldn't read. I mean, he really could not read. The only thing he could do was write his name, and how he made it through that far was he would tell you, I really do like the way that you read. Could you read this for me? He'd had a photographic mind. He could remember every word that was spoken to him, then give it back to you and add to it as if he knew what he was talking about.
Right. So, well, people become very good at covering up if they are illiterate.
Correct.
And so, when you met him, he was married, though, right?
Right.
And so you start dating him,
Well, I
and
didn't know he was I didn't know he was married at the time I was dating him.
how did you find out that he was married?
That wasn't. It was like 3-4 months later. My girlfriend came over to my home and said, "Well, he's married, right?" That's when I found out. I had no clue. He had no ring. It was nothing that indicated to me that he was married.
And
No children, nothing.
what did you do? Yeah, and he had children as well, and you had no idea. What did you do?
Right.
Did you immediately
No.
confront him?
I did, and I told him that we were done. And that's when he said to me, "Well, I can't read. Can you please teach me how to read? I need to move my life forward."
So he sucked you
And that's
back
when I
in,
started teaching him
basically.
how to read. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you felt bad.
But
And
it wasn't a relationship like it was before when I was teaching him how to read.
mhm. And then how
It's
did you
just
spark
teachers
up?
do that.
So you were just teaching him how to read, and then how did the romantic
Excuse
relationship
me.
then spark back up?
Once he got to Fort Lewis, he sent me a letter saying that he was willing to do whatever it took to have me in his life, and he sent me a one-way ticket, and I left.
And
And he got divorced, and then we got married.
so you followed him out there, and you get married to John Allen Muhammad. His name wasn't. It was John Allen Williams at the time. Later, he changed it to Muhammad. But now, how was this marriage? Was this a normal marriage, or was this guy? I mean, here's a guy that goes and he kills 10 different people as the DC sniper. How was he in married life?
Married life, it was just like every relationship. You have your arguments and your disagreements, but nothing to the level of abuse. We had our disagreements. We knew how to settle those conflicts reasonably, and then we kept going.
Did you ever? Was there any point? Was there any? Sometimes I see like this guy who went into the movie theater out in Colorado and shot the place up. People go,
Right.
"Oh yeah, the guy was crazy. He was really crazy. I saw that coming." Now, did you have
No,
any
there was none
inkling?
of that.
Nothing, really.
No, John was very well liked. He would give you the shirt off his back. I mean, he would literally do that. He was the life of the party. He was jovial. He was fun. Everybody wanted to be around John.
And then what happened? What went wrong? Why did the marriage end? Because it sounds at that point that things did take a dark turn. What happened?
Well, this was years after he returned from Saudi Arabia. He was in the military. He was an 84th combat engineer. He was an expert shot, and he was. We were in Benelux, Germany, in 1990, and that's when the first Gulf War started in Saudi Arabia. He received orders with his unit to go to Saudi in December of 1990. and he was there from December 1990 until March of 1991. When he got back, he was a completely different person.
What do you think happened over it? What happened over there, you think?
Well, there are many stories that are floating around. Some I don't believe that I will ever know exactly what happened to him, but he was not the same person. He was depressed. He was sad. He didn't want to be in the military any longer. It was like night and day with him. He would sit in a corner, rock back and forth, and ponder what his life was about. He was diagnosed with PTSD, and he came back on the injury side, so he was not debriefed. Injury side meaning he was working on the tanks, and the tank gun moved and struck him in the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where he could no longer use his shoulder. So that's what had him coming back to Germany.
So he was a changed man. The marriage goes south because of that. Mm-hmm. And you have a couple of kids with him. And after the divorce, he now says, this John Allen Muhammad, who was the D.C. sniper, one of them, he says he basically terrorizes you.
He says, you have become my enemy, and as my enemy, I will kill you.
And did you believe it?
I went to everybody for help. Oh, yes, sir. No doubt in my mind.
And no one would help you. You told people, and their reaction was what?
I told people, and their reaction was, you need to go home, because if he's not hitting you, then you don't have anything to complain about.
So
but John was skilled in psychological warfare. So he intimidated me. He took things away from me. He was one way at home, and he was a different person when he was out with other people. He was in the community. Everybody liked him. Again, he was very charismatic, could get people on his side to do anything he wanted them to do. But they would not believe that he was the type of person that I was describing to them.
And they probably thought you were crazy, right?
They thought I was crazy, exactly. Why would you say such things about him? He's such a good man. I don't understand why you're not doing all you need to do. Are you sure the children are clean when he comes home? Did you cook food today? Was the house clean? Everything was my fault.
So you actually
kidnapped the children.
You actually moved. Okay. So he kidnapped the children. You said that. So he kidnapped them, and he went where with them?
Antigua.
And he was there for how long?
18 months.
And so a year and a half. So he takes your kids. Did you know where he was with the kids, or how did you end up getting them back?
He had them on a week. I had a lifetime restraining order because prior to that, he was coming in the middle of the night, standing over my bed. He changed my phone number.
Oh my God! I mean, when you woke up and
on me.
Wait, so you would wake up and he'd be?
No, I didn't wake up.
Oh.
I heard the key going in the door, and I knew it was him because he still had a key to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I laid there with my eye open to a slither, so he could not know that I was awake. Had I jumped up, he would have killed me. I am convinced. I knew him. So I had to lay there still and watch him through a peep in my eye to see what he was doing. And he would walk around my bed, peer over to see if I was awake, stand up, and then leave out of the house.
Oh, my God.
He did that 3 times. Then I got the locks changed, and then my phone number, he changed that. And that's when my son got sick. He pushed his way in the house. I swung at him. He left. I called the police, and the police said, as long as his name is on the lease, there's nothing we can do. So you need to get a restraining order. I went and got the restraining order. The judge said, you need to get away from this guy. I said, Your Honor, I'm trying. And he gave me a lifetime restraining order. That is when we decided, through having someone else to come and pick up the children, that he would have visitation with the children every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The weekend he took them was my mother's birthday. When he took them, he was supposed to have them back. He got on the plane that Monday night, March the 27th. My son said, Mom, we got on the plane when Dad told you we was on our way back. And they were in Antigua for 18 months. The people that were around that would come and check on me would go back and tell him what I was doing. So he had people spying on me. He also emptied the bank accounts and took all the money, called the landlord and said he would no longer pay the rent, which left me and my mother penniless.
Mildred Muhammad is on with us. She has a book called Scared Silent When the One You Love Becomes the One You Fear. This is the ex-wife of John Allen Muhammad, who you know is one of the two D.C. area snipers, killed 10 people back in 2002. It went on for about 3 weeks. I was fascinated by this as it was happening. Of course, you don't want anyone to be killed, but you couldn't. I mean, I could not be dragged away from the TV during this period of time during these 3 weeks. So you actually get the kids back, and you.
I got the children back because he was in Bellingham, Washington at that time. He had came back from Antigua. He goes there and he says he needs food stamps and cash. Well, at that time, it was an automatic red flag for a man to go into social services requesting food stamps and cash. Once they did that, he had to give their real names because he had them under fake names.
Mm-hmm.
They did a cross-check and found my children's name associated with me and that they had been kidnapped. That social worker told them to come back the next day to get the food stamps and cash. That social worker called the police. The police and CPS went and picked up my children, put them in CPS, and then I had to fly back to Tacoma for an emergency custody hearing and was awarded them, and then flew back to Maryland, to the D.C. area, and we went into hiding.
So you had moved away, basically, yeah.
That was September 5th, 2001, when we got back to the D.C. area.
So you're in the D.C. area now. This is what's fascinating. So in October of 2002, the beginning of October is when these sniper attacks start to occur, and this John Allen Muhammad, her ex-wife, had sort of indoctrinated this young guy, this Lee Boyd Malvo. And
right.
I don't know if brainwashed, maybe that's too strong.
Who was my children's best friend. When he went to Antigua, Lee was looking for a father figure, and he saw John, and his mother, Lee's mother, gave Lee to John to take care of while she went and found work. Well, that's how Lee came into the picture, and then Lee and my children became good friends.
Mm-hmm.
So when he left Antigua, he left just with the children, but Lee followed him later.
So this guy was almost brainwashed by your ex-husband,
right.
And so they start these attacks. It goes on for a period of 3 weeks. They were driving around. I think
right.
they had a hole cut out in the trunk of the car, and one of them would lay back there and shoot, and then the other one would, I guess, drive away. And they were looking for. I mean, this was, and also. If you remember that there was a letter that was written and sent to the police.
Posted to the right.
And they came out and they read this letter. It was very worded very bizarrely. Now, what's interesting, and I've never heard this before, but the story that I heard from this Lee Boyd Malvo and whatnot was that your ex-husband had a plan, and he wanted to get a bunch of young, impressionable kids and take them up to Canada and start almost like a militia up there or something. But you're saying that the reason why he was doing these attacks was really to kill you.
Well, the FBI told me that. I didn't say this or come up with this on my own. On October 23rd, ATF knocks on my door. They want to take me down to the police station to find out when was the last time I had seen John. They asked me, had I heard about any shootings in Nevada? Had I heard about any shootings in the southern states? And I said, no, I hadn't. So they said, well, we need for you to listen to this CD. And it was a voice with an accent of a man. Do you recognize this voice, Ms. Muhammad? I say, no, sir, I don't. They say, well, we want you to look at this letter. It was the letter that was posted to the tree. Do you recognize his handwriting? I say, no, sir, I don't. He said, Ms. Muhammad, look, we just going to have to tell you. We're going to name your ex-husband as the sniper.
Wow. And what goes through your mind?
Do anything? I'm thinking, oh, my, I was in total disbelief. He said, well, do you think he would do something like this? Because at that point, my head was on the table. And I raised my head, and he said, I looked around, and I said, well, yeah. He said, well, why would you think that? I said, because we were watching a movie, and I don't remember the name of the movie, but he said I could take a small city, terrorize it. They would think it would be a group of people, and it would only be me. And I asked him, why would he do something like that? And he changed the subject. And then the FBI said, well, Miss Muhammad, didn't you know you were the target? I said, why would I know I was the target if you told us to look for two Caucasians in a white box truck? He said, well, the man that was shot down the street from you at the restaurant, he had a laptop with $3,000. That was down the street from you. It was a man that was shot in a convenience store in the abdomen. That's 2 miles from you. Miss Muhammad, you were the target. We need to put you and your children in protective custody. So the 24th is when they caught him.
So
the FBI told me I was the target, and they put me and my children, my sister and my brother-in-law, into protective custody until they caught him.
And do you believe the FBI when they tell you that you were the target? I mean, this Lee Boyd Malvo seems to, maybe your ex-husband probably wouldn't tell him what he's really thinking.
Lee said that the initial was to find me and get the children back, and then have other children and kill the police officer and have this big explosion, all of that. But the initial reason for him coming was to kill me. The way that John found out that I was on the East Coast is he went to a Devoted Dads group in Washington, Tacoma, Washington, told them I kidnapped the children. They did not do a background check to verify his story. They did a skip trace on me, found me in the D.C. area, and told him. He went to his best friend and said, hey, I found Mildred. He said, well, where is she? He said, she's in the D.C. area. He said, you're not going to hurt her, are you? He came over this way. In the midst of the shootings, that best friend called the FBI and said, I don't know anything about your case, but you may want to look at John Allen Muhammad. His ex-wife is in the area, and he may be there to hurt her. That's when the investigation changed.
Yeah, because there was Mildred Muhammad is on with us, the ex-wife of John Allen Muhammad, one of the D.C. area snipers. And before I let you go, there was I'm reading, I've forgotten, this was 10 years ago, but there was an anonymous phone call who said, told a priest to tell police to check out a liquor store robbery murder that had occurred in Montgomery, Alabama, and they then did fingerprints on some of the stuff that was found there at that crime scene and identified that as Lee Boyd Malvo, who was, right, this guy that was working with your ex-husband. Who was that anonymous phone caller, and how would they have any idea?
That was the phone call was actually from Lee himself. Lee called the priest because he was trying to get away from John, and he didn't know how to do that. What a lot of people also don't know is when John, before the shootings began, John changed his name to Muhammad in April or June of 2001. Then he went down to Louisiana in our hometown with Lee pretending to be his son. Lee gave a note to John's niece. They didn't open the note until they saw them on TV, and the note said, please help me. If I don't do what John tells me to do, he will kill me. That never came out. The judge would not allow it into evidence. When I testified for Lee, because my children asked me to and said if it wasn't for Dad, Lee wouldn't be there, his attorney said, Miss Muhammad, do you recognize this young man? I say, no, sir, I don't. He said, well, they found you. John sent Lee to your door pretending to be a salesperson, and his instructions were when you open the door to kill you at the door. Well, Miss Muhammad, you opened the door, but for whatever reason, he walked away. But we don't know the repercussions that he suffered because he did not carry out that instruction.
So this Lee Boyd Malvo was really an innocent. Look, he did participate in this. There's no getting around that.
He
did
participate.
But he was really sucked in by your ex-husband, and this guy would have never done anything like this on his own.
Right. Exactly.
Mildred Muhammad, her book is called Scared Silent, When the One You Love Becomes the One You Fear. Your ex-husband was executed a couple of years ago, put to death.
November of 2009, yes, sir.
Was that a relief when that happened?
I had relief already. I was more concerned about my children knowing that their father was about to be executed. And I was trying to help them through that process. That was my main concern at that time.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. Mildred,
Right.
as I mentioned, the book Scared Silent. You can go to the website afterthetrauma.org. It's available there. MildredMuhammad.com as well. Mildred.
And I also want to say right
Yes.
quick, if you don't mind,
Sure.
my daughters one attends Cleveland State, and the other one attends Baldwin Wallace Conservatory. Both are in vocal performance, and both sing opera in 8 different languages.
Well, 8 different languages there. They just got a shout out from their mom Mildred on the air.
Exactly.
Well, Mildred, I appreciate you coming on and telling the story, and good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Mildred Muhammad.